Hi guys, welcome to this video. In this video we discuss a CAT para-jumble question. The challenge with this particular question is that this is a question without answer options. So once you have a para-jumble without answer options, there will always be an element of guesswork involved, right? You just cannot avoid it. The best way to go about is to form pairs, right? Form short pairs. You identify the opening sentence and form short pairs and then try to work out an answer, right? Now in order to solve this question, pause this video for a second, solve this question and then go through the solution, right? So come up with your order. I'll explain how do you solve this question, right? The first thing that you've got to do is you've got to identify the most generic statements in this case. The two most generic statements are these: just as life has death as its opposite, so is tradition by default the opposite of innovation. Second, it is now a truism to say that traditions are not handed down unchanged but are invented. So these are two statements that we have in this case, which are very general in nature. Now how do we solve this question? The first thing that you do is you form a pair. It is now a truism to say that traditions are not handed down unchanged. So the topic here is something is being handed down. What is being handed down? Traditions are being handed down. The process of handing down implies not a passive transfer but some contestation in defining what exactly is to be handed down. So your handing down, the process of handing something down, 4 and 1 connect with that, right? 4 is the more general of the two. It states that it is a truism to say that traditions are not handed down but are invented. 1, the process of handing down implies not a passive transfer but some contestation in defining what exactly is to be handed down, right? So he's saying this says that traditions are not going to be handed down unchanged. This talks about that things are going to be changed through what? Through contestation. So we've got first pair 4-1 that we have identified in this case, right? Now the next pair we identify. Every generation selects what it requires from the past and makes its innovation some more than others. So every generation it selects what it wants to change, right? And it makes innovation some more than others. Wherever Western scholars have worked upon the Indian past, the selection is even more apparent and the inventing of a tradition much more recognizable. Now in this case, statement 3 becomes your generic statement, which says that every generation it selects what it requires from the past, it makes its innovation some more than others. So it's referring to some particular people making some changes. Statement number 2 gives you that example. Some more than others, it's referring to people. Here we have Western scholars working on Indian past, so we have a specific example now, right? So the second set that we have of connected statements is 3-2, right? Now if you read 4-1-3-2, you will realize that this is moving in a specific order, right? It is a truism that traditions are not handed down. Then there is contestation, not a passive transfer. Then every generation selects what it wants to, it makes innovations. Western scholars then forms the example for it. Statement 5, just as life has death as its opposite, so tradition by default the opposite, so it's tradition by default the opposite of innovation. Now we can see we can't place 5 at the end of this, right? Because it is a very generic statement. We've moved on to a specific example in 2, right? So where can we place 5? It does not fit in the middle because 4-1-3-2 it gives you a sense, right? Something is being handed down, then you're moving into more and more detail, every generation selecting something, then Western scholars working on that selection. So the most generic opening statement here, the most generic statement comes right at the start. 5-4-1-3-2 is the correct order in this case, and if you read it as well once again, generic opening, it gives you a very generic opening that life as death has its opposite, tradition versus is opposite of innovation, right? Now how does that innovation happen? It is a truism to say traditions are not handed down unchanged but are invented. So it talks about that what is the conflict that is taking place between traditions being handed down and inventions and changes taking place in them, and then these statements explain that change in that order 1-3-2. Overall, if you have to rate the level of difficulty of this question, this is a tough question, right? It's a very tough question to solve without answer options. You can come up with multiple ways of multiple ways of ordering these sentences, right? And it is going to be tough to eliminate some of those. This is the best out of those ways, hence it's the correct answer, but it's a tough question. One question which while you're solving it in the exam is going to pose a lot of challenge. So it's the kind of question which is not the kind of question where you can maintain a lot of accuracy, right? So that's something that you've got to keep in mind, and you've got to take this question with a pinch of salt, right? Thank you very much for watching this video, and happy learning.